Whew, that was a busy month. What an amazing Solve ME Advocacy Month this May. From our kickoff event on May 2nd to our Empower Me featuring local advocates last week, this has been insane. Thank you so much to all the advocates. We had hundreds of meetings with members of Congress, hundreds of phone calls, thousands of messages sent, all of your social media. It made such a difference. We are so excited. I can't wait to share the results with you, but in the meantime, enjoy this video summarizing all of the events that happened this month. Enjoy.
Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for Solve ME's Virtual Advocacy Month kickoff event.
We started as an organization to be concerned about long COVID back in at the summer of 2020. So very soon after the beginning of the COVID-19 global pandemic.
Of course, now with the pandemic, the landscape has changed. With the relationship between ME and COVID. The university that does have long COVID clinics, but they're overwhelmed.
So we felt that there has to be a bridge between what we know and what we didn't know at the time and what was still emerging. And we felt that our organization was compelled to be this bridge.
The way in which we need to be acting on this needs to be coming from multiple angles. We need to view this not just as an individualized healthcare issue, but really as a more collective and community-based issue that is going to have ripple effects beyond the individual.
So our objective today is to explore long COVID's impact from multiple perspectives, as Ovid talked about. We're going to talk about scientific research, public health policy, the effect on insurers and pharmaceutical firms, the economic and labor market challenges, and probably the most important out of all of this is the human experience.
I was super healthy, happy, active, the lead singer in a very loud rock band, the director of the school musical, a writer for the school paper.
I also was volunteering in the community. I volunteered for a breast cancer foundation that helped provide services for women of color.
Most importantly, I'm a person with ME/CFS, with complex regional pain syndrome or CRPS, with POTS, with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
And so I found a group, and I went and I looked in the group, and everyone was talking about the same symptoms that they were having. I was like, whoa, there's more of me? And it was by the thousands already. And I was like, how is no one talking about how there's thousands of people in this group with these illnesses?
And I ended up meeting a group of people here and realized that there was a huge community out there that had been suffering a little bit like I had for years.
The most important thing with advocacy is that you don't attempt to do it alone. So find your people and make friends. I know we were just talking about relationships of, the people that we're after, but I think relationships within the group are equally important. So go find your friends, step one, get found.
So here's our promise for today's event. Today, you are going to learn something new that you have not known previously about long COVID. It will be the case that the examples that you hear, the techniques that are being discussed in research papers, some insights and ideas, maybe just one of these ideas today is going to make a breakthrough and help to improve the quality of life for someone that you know personally.
The Massachusetts ME/CFS and FM Association has been going for 37 years. We're probably the oldest patient-led, state-based ME/CFS organization in the country, and I would consider us a mature organization with a firm central focus, but we're constantly evolving at the edges to take advantage of opportunities that as they come up.
So I am so thrilled to see so many well-educated scientists and physicians talking in this kind of forum about it. So thank you all. It's very heartening.
We have a modest goal, which is just to make sure that we can provide education so that harm is prevented for people with long COVID.
At Cigna, we really believe in the power of data as a tool to inform us and help guide decisions. So on that front, we have been following COVID related data before we even had reported cases in this country.
What we do is our vaccine development effort, our Texas Children's Hospital Center for Vaccine Development we've been in place for 20 years. And the idea behind it is to make the vaccines that the pharma companies can't make or won't make.
In fact, we were actually thinking about this even pre-COVID, is this notion of how can you create maybe a cocktail of vaccine prototypes that can give us a little bit of certainly more durability, more broadening, so that we can maybe even cover the unknown new coronavirus to come in the future.
In my humble opinion, your work, Maria Elena and Peter, rank you with the Jonas Salk and Maurice Hillman work in vaccine development history. Your work essentially will save many, many lives. So we wish you well for the Nobel. If it were up to me, you'd have my vote already.
I would say that our main focus is to attempt to make the biggest impact that we possibly can, based on our network that we have, based on the knowledge that we have, amongst us advocates.
Like was just mentioned, I'm Terry Wilder. I am a person living with ME. I was diagnosed in March of 2016, although like most of us have had it for a very, very long time and just didn't know it. My background is that I'm a social worker by training, so I'm always concerned about social justice.
I've been so lucky to just further my patient advocacy, because I believe that all of us full-time patients really do have such a purpose in sharing our stories, because we are the experts in our own stories.
And that kind of launched me really into advocacy, because at the time, obviously, COVID was a very controversial thing in terms of how it was being handled by our country. And I decided that I was going to tell my story and be very transparent about what my family experienced, because I didn't want to see other families go through the same kind of trauma and loss that we did.
It's again one of those things where time is not our friend, but it is their friend, because we need things to happen yesterday. They work on things for tomorrow.
But the reality is, when one person is affected, an entire community becomes affected. And if you are specifically part of marginalized communities where you very much rely on your community for support, for access to resources, all types of resources, even more so that community is affected. But I think at the grander scale, if we're going to kind of zoom out a bit, the reality is society is affected.
So today we are going to discuss really the economic impact, particularly on the labor market, of long COVID.
If we are all chronically ill, if we're sick, not getting support, getting worse and worse with these debilitating illnesses because there's no treatments, because there's no cure, there's no curiosity into even researching us, let alone recognizing us. From there, you aren't contributing to the economy in the way that I think a lot of people, foolishly think that you are. So you're not able to, you don't have the resources if you've lost your job to go buy groceries, to go shopping.
I love the way you were describing it, Lauren, as this ripple effect. I tend to think about it as when you have one person who's affected by long COVID. So think more broadly about the figures in the white paper. Long COVID doesn't just affect that one person, it affects everyone in their social ecosystem.
We're already seeing co-sponsors being added to the bills. Members are already contacting me with questions to start adding themselves to the process. We already have some potentially interested Republicans, fingers crossed, and those of you in Republican districts, keep pushing. There are folks that are looking and considering co-sponsoring the bills. It also opened up a dialogue with committee staff so that we can start talking about through those barriers that are preventing it to be taken up in committee and addressing those directly with committee staff. So much is really moving. I can't even keep up with my emails, which is a good thing, because that's how much interest and political will and momentum we've generated.
Ovid, thank you very much for your leadership and putting this together. It's been a fascinating day, sharing opportunities and to learn something new about long COVID. I have been stimulated by the conversations, the questions that have come from here in the room and from people online, and certainly from our panelists. I think one of my takeaways is that long COVID is not going away. Well, we aren't either.
And so I think this really caps off our presentations today, because we started off at the very scientific level, really looking at the human body, and then we zoomed out to the economic level with vaccines, and then we looked at the impact on specific industries, and now we're really going to talk about the humans behind all of this. And I think this is a really great way to contextualize everything we've been talking about today.